Hi, Miss Devereaux here, and I wanted to walk you through some examples of strong writing in your paper. So, if you look back at the prompt, the first thing that you need to make sure you do is that you have a thesis statement that is addressing the prompt. So, you need to pick two elements in the author's writing that they use to help convey a theme. So, that tells us that in your thesis statement, you are going to list two elements and you are going to include a theme. So we're going to kind of work backwards here. Every time you see a thesis statement, you'll see that I've highlighted two elements, all right? So these are all examples done by previous students. So these are all works done by people your age on an assignment that you are now working on. And I asked them if I could use their work to help you guys better understand what it is that you need to do. So Douglas Adams incorporated the theme of perseverance through struggles in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by using events and literary devices. As you go through this, your example looks a little bit different because I had to download it in order for you to be able to access it and see my comments. But you'll see that if you click, so you'll see my notes over here. So when you are including a book title in an MLA formatted essay, you need to properly capitalize, and then all titles must be italicized, okay? So don't put it in quotation marks, don't underline it, italicize it. And then you'll see here that there are the two elements. And then just working on this from top to bottom now, so we know that the theme is going to be perseverance through struggles. And I can tell you that when we started on this student, his theme was perseverance. And we had to work back and forth, as I'm sure a few of you have had to do with me, to narrow down this theme to a lesson. So perseverance through struggles, that gives us something very targeted to talk about in the essay. Perseverance is too broad because it could be perseverance about anything. So perseverance through struggles gives us something pointed to focus on for this essay. So then you'll notice that his hook is a definition, and he defines perseverance as the act of doing something despite the difficulty you might have in finding success, okay? So that's a great hook because it gives us a definition. It kind of orients us with what we're probably going to be talking about. And nowhere does it say in this paper or in this essay or I'm going to tell you about, because you do not need to include words like that. Then we've got our linking sentences. So he goes on to describe perseverance and why it's important and how it matters in getting through struggles. And then he gives us his theme, okay? You'll see that I followed this with a conclusion because I want you to understand how an introduction and a conclusion really work together to round out a paper. So in the conclusion, if you were to look at your rubric, you would see that you need to have your thesis statement restated or summarized. And so he has done that. The author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams, used events, see, and literary devices in order to give evidence of the theme of perseverance through struggles. So he basically just reorganized the way he wrote his thesis statement, but that's perfect. You need that in your conclusion. Okay, so then he goes on to explain in his essay. If we were to read his essay in order, you would see that in one paragraph he talks about vivid imagery, and in another paragraph he talks about events. And so here he's going to summarize what he already told us in his previous paragraphs, just to wrap it all up nicely. The author used elements to develop theme by including vivid imagery that also caused struggles for characters to overcome, and he also used allegories to reward characters after they endured major struggles. So he talked about two different kinds of literary devices, vivid imagery and allegory, in one of his paragraphs. Additionally, Adams used events that the characters struggle with, such as dying on the shore without evolution and dealing with the knowledge of your planet being a supercomputer for the question of life, the universe, and everything. So again, he's now told us events and then re-hit on those events that he used to develop his theme in his paper. In the end, did the characters throughout The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy persevere through their problems to the point of wanting to give up and instead emerge victorious and change from the effort they had put in to get through their problems? So he's left us with a question or something to think about, okay? And so now you can see how we've got perseverance here, we've got a theme, and we've got elements. And then here we talk about actual examples of perseverance from the book that the author used the elements to help show us the theme, okay? If you go down, we've got another sample introduction and conclusion with my notes alongside them. You can read through those on your own time. And then I've included some novel summaries. So we will go with this one. And you'll notice that all I'm doing in here is highlighting and showing you that they just included plot elements. Okay? So, in Everything, Everything, Madison, the main character, has the rare disease where she lives her entire life inside of her home and has to stay away from germs because they could make her very sick. So we've got the exposition. We know a character. We've got kind of a basic understanding of where this story is going to go. Thus, she's not left her home, not once in her entire 18 years of living, as it could kill her. Carla, her nurse, allows Madison and Ollie, the boy who lives next door, to meet and is fired because of the risk that he could potentially bring germs into her safe living environment. So we've got a rising action. We think, okay, she's met somebody and her nurse was fired because of that, so there's probably going to be conflict around this meeting or something to do with rebelling against these germs. Madison and Ollie later become friends and run away together to Hawaii. There, Madison falls very ill and finds herself in a hospital in Hawaii where the doctors send her back home. So the climax, she ran away, she got sick. Madison learns that from the doctors that she never actually had SCIDS, but rather Pauline, her mother, fabricated the disease. So now we've got a falling action, the result of the climax. So Madison flies to New York and away from her home to visit Ollie, who had recently moved there. A conclusion. So this is quick. And like I say here, this summary gives us an idea of what this book is about without giving every detail that could potentially ruin the story if you wanted to try it out. So that's all you really need for your second body paragraph, is a quick summary that includes the 5 elements of plot. Okay? I've never read this book, but I have a pretty good idea of what happened so that as I go into the essay, I can probably follow along pretty well. So in here, I've included 3 different examples of body paragraphs for you. We will just go over one. In all of the body paragraphs, I copy and pasted the thesis statement before I gave you the actual body paragraph. So the yellow is the thesis statement from the introduction, and then the body paragraph. In blue, I highlighted the element from the thesis statement that the body paragraph is covering. Okay? So because we read the everything, I'm going to go over that one with you. Okay. So Yoon uses characters and events to construct her theme and convey the message that the greatest risk is not taking one. So events, and this paragraph we're going to talk about events. Yoon uses the event when Madison goes to Hawaii with Ollie and almost dies due to her immune deficiency disease to convey her theme of the greatest risk is not taking one. Madison, despite her disease, was determined to travel, to see the ocean, to be in the world and experience life for the first time, which is detailed in this passage. So we've got an opening sentence that tells us the theme and the element that we are going to be learning about and how that element exposes the theme. We've also got some ideas, so she gave us just a little bit of background that we're going to need to understand everything else that she's going to talk about in this paragraph. The orange are passages from the text, okay? I'm in Ollie's garden, where the air is full, ripe with scent flowers. Earth, my expanding fear when I toss rocks at his window. Okay. So you'll also notice here that when you include an in-text citation, notice that this sentence ends here with a period in the book, but we need our in-text citation, last name, page number, no comma, no extra spaces, and then you follow with the period afterward. If your in-text citation ends with a question mark or an exclamation mark, you leave that in there. But if it does not, you just put the period at the end, okay? So then what the trap a lot of people fall into is that all they provide after a passage is they give a summary of the passage. What you need to do is you need to explain how this passage highlights an event that happened that then shows us your theme, okay? So let's see how she does this. Madison leaves her home in the night to fly out of state to Hawaii, which is very risky for her life because of her disease. So we've got a little bit more summary, which is okay because it is followed with this, okay? But regardless of her sickness, she is determined to see the ocean and visits Ollie in hopes that he will take the risk along with her. So what we get here is an explanation that this event, while risky, okay, helps to show that this girl is determined to travel and to see the ocean and experience life, and she's hoping that somebody will go with her. So it's showing us here that for her, the greatest risk is not taking one because she wants to experience her life. And if she doesn't go to Hawaii, she's never going to, okay? And so right here, the mention of take the risk, that ties us back to the theme. Now we've got here, she had to include this piece here because she needed to define what the disease was. You won't necessarily need passages like this, but this had to be included just to make sure everything was clear. Severe combined immunodeficiency is my disease, where I'm basically allergic to the outside world and anything that can trigger a bout of sickness. Madison explains her disease and how it could cause her to become very ill if she came into contact with any bad air or germs. And this explains why she almost died toward the end of the story. Because of this, Madison decides to disregard her disease and take the biggest risk of her life by going to see the place that she's always wanted to see, the ocean. So here we're being told that she has this disease, and being diagnosed with this disease is an event that happens in the story, okay? So that ties us back. And then we learned that because of this disease, we already know she's been trapped inside, but she decides that she needs to disregard this and take a big risk to see something she's always wanted to see. So more connection to the theme, including the bit about the disease, was needed to help the reader understand why this trip was a great risk. Here, even the description of the disease is used to tie back to the theme and why the theme is so prevalent in this story, okay? And now we've got another passage. She put her life at risk. Madison's mother, Pauline, feels that Madison's decision to go to Hawaii put her life at risk by exposing her to a host of germs and viruses. Despite this, Madison believes that the risks are necessary in order for her to really live, which is why she makes the decision to step outside of her comfort zone and travel to a new place. So we've got another event where the mother is expressing concern, but we tie back to our theme because we know that while she has this disease, the one thing she wants to do in her life is see the ocean. And so for her, not seeing the ocean would be a greater risk than leaving her house. So each of these has some introduction to the passage, then it's got some summary of the passage, and then following that summary, there is a connection back to the theme. So we always connect back to how this event helped us to understand, in this case, that the greatest risk is not taking one. So I just walked you through this one passage, but there are other, so this paragraph talks about conflict, and this paragraph talks about the use of characters. This one is very strong, okay? I just didn't go over it because we read the summary of everything, so it's going to be easier to understand. The novel summary for Perks of Being a Wallflower is here. And then here's one of the body paragraphs, and this is an excellent, excellent, well done paragraph. Take the time to read through it, and then take the time to read my notes on what was so successful here. I really hope that this video helps you to better understand what it is that you're going to need to accomplish in your paper, because these are all really well done examples, again, by your peers in previous years. So take the time, open up this doc, scroll through it, read what your peers wrote, read the notes I left, and good luck.